Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to do an update to our 2020 Senate election map, and we're going to go through, fill in my prediction, and go through and see what is going on with these Senate races. So, there's been major developments when it comes to many things around the country, especially around coronavirus. I guess the big issue right now is reopening of schools, and the Republicans are starting to gain some force, but a lot of these Republican candidates are not getting that much from traction in these specific races, which they need to win. Whether you're Cory Gardner in the state of Colorado or a Dan Sullivan in the state of Alaska, they're losing grasp with these races. Some of these races they were supposed to go to the Democrats and flip, and some of them there's no need for the Republicans to lose those seats because those seats usually are reliably Republican. But because of very competitive Democratic seats, things are constantly changing. The Democrats are running exceptionally good candidates, so that really might help them out when it comes to gaining a majority. So let's go through and fill in our map with the winners from the respective party. So, our safe states for the Democrats, let's just begin with that. There is not that much change here, but there's a couple seats that should be contested, but the Republicans aren't running too much of exceptional candidates, to say the least. And these are places where the Republicans, if they had ran someone, they could have easily gotten the race to be at least competitive. Think about New Mexico or Virginia. Yeah, they're running someone, but it's not the best candidate they could have picked for these specific areas. They would have picked someone else in the state of Virginia or someone else in the state of New Mexico. It could go down to a race of 5 points. Now the incumbent in Virginia, Mark Warner, and in New Mexico, Ben Ray Lujan, a popular congressman, they're easily going to go and win the Senate seat. So those are Democratic safe states as of right now. So what are we looking at for the Republican Party? They're going to start off at a major disadvantage. There's going to be many seats that should be filled in for them, but now they're not. So, some of these races were supposed to be pretty solid for the Republican Party, but since they're running pretty bad candidates, or the incumbents are sort of unpopular, they're going to have a little bit of harder time filling in some of these seats. And I think one thing to note here is that we're seeing a very big, good Democratic year in the South. Although the Democrats might not win every seat in the South, or not even win one at all, they're still running good candidates that makes these races competitive and gives them a chance to win. So this is our map where we're going to start off with our likely states. So why don't we go on and go through our likely states? The Democratic Party is very ahead right now. They have likely states, I would say, in the state of Arizona, Colorado, at this point Michigan, and Minnesota. They also have New Hampshire pretty much solidly for them. I'm going to explain each of these races in depth. So in the state of Arizona, you have Martha McSally going against Mark Kelly, the Democrat. Mark Kelly is leading constantly in polls, outraising Martha McSally, just a lot more popular. Remember, Martha McSally is very unpopular because, remember, she lost her election in 2018. This seat was given to her by Governor Doug Ducey. So just thinking about it, she was rejected by the Arizona voters, and considering she's a lot right wing compared to what Arizona likes in the moderate section, Arizona is pretty solid for the Democrats. Mark Kelly is going to have a very big and large victory in the state of Arizona. When it comes to the state of Colorado, we have Cory Gardner, pretty unpopular incumbent, going against former governor and very popular governor then. He was governor 2 years ago, John Hickenlooper. John Hickenlooper won his primary, and he is becoming very popular. And this race, each day, is going more in favor of Hickenlooper. Here's what did Cory Gardner his seat. He essentially voted too much with the Republicans. Remember, Colorado is an increasingly Democratic state. There's a lot of progressive voters here. John Hickenlooper is he's somewhere between progressive and moderate, and that really appeals to the Colorado voters. That helps you in the suburbs in Colorado, as well as the inner city vote. So John Hickenlooper has a very good chance at this race, compared to where Cory Gardner is very unpopular. Minnesota and Michigan are on similar votes. You just have very popular incumbents, I guess, in Tina Smith and Gary Peters. going against, I mean, in Minnesota, it's not big of a Republican challenger. That's a very big person in Minnesota politics, compared to Michigan. So John James is running in Michigan. That race is going to be a little bit more contested than the race in Minnesota, but still, I think they could go by around anywhere from 5 to 10 points in the state of Minnesota and Michigan. And New Hampshire just have Jean Shaheen. This seat could have been contested, but since one, Jean Shaheen is so popular, and really that just helps her out. And she probably has the seat pretty much locked up at this point in time. And the Republicans could have ran someone here, but they didn't, which is going to be a big mistake they are going to regret for a long time when they start looking at their Senate maps for the future. I mean, the Republicans are increasingly going to have to revolutionize. They're going to have to bring up new candidates, bring up new ideals to appeal to the next generation of Americans. So, this is our map going on for our Democratic likely states. What are the Republican likely states at this point in time? There's actually a couple. So, I would say the South is pretty locked up for the Republican Party. It's going to narrow up where it should be, but still. You also have the state of Kentucky, I would say, is in the likely column for the Republican Party, as well as the state of Alaska. So I'm going to go from west to east. So in the state of Alaska, we have Al Gross going against Dan Sullivan. So here, the interesting thing about this race is that Alaska's more liberal than people may think, and they're not afraid to vote down ballot. In Alaska, they love third parties. So, I mean, generally speaking, it's pretty much all the left-leaning or, like, moderate third parties going on with the Democratic vote, which, I mean, we've seen this happen before. Mark Begich, going on to be, he ran for governor last time. He did pretty good. And all these races show that, that the Alaskan voter could vote Democratic. I think Dan Sullivan still would win the race, but Al Gross would at least make it competitive. When it comes to Kentucky, it's Mitch McConnell. He's pretty unpopular, I would say. And again, he's going to win here just because of the fact he is Republican majority leader in the United States Senate. His race is more important than anyone else's. For the Republicans, losing Mitch McConnell, it's going to be an embarrassment. So they're really focusing on that race. I mean, and you also have Amy McGrath. She's a pretty good candidate. Nonetheless, I would say that Mitch McConnell still has his votes in the state of Kentucky. Mississippi and Alabama on a pretty similar vote. So they're going to have very big appeal, Doug Jones and Mike Epsy, to the African American voter. Now, you have two people who are, one in Mississippi, I guess, more popular, I guess, in Mississippi and Alabama. It's just that it's more Republican states. So in Mississippi, you have Cindy Highsmith. She's not the most popular senator, but she still has her supporters. Mike Epsy, yeah, there's a big African American population in the state of Mississippi, but that's not going to be enough to flip the seat for the Democrats. In Alabama, you have Tommy Tuberville, former coach for one of Alabama's university's football teams, and he's going against current incumbent Doug Jones. He is going to win the race just because Doug Jones is a Democrat in Alabama. I mean, Doug Jones was running a pretty good campaign. I mean, he's pretty popular for a Democrat in Alabama. He's actually approved of. Now, the thing here is that a lot of people would rather have a Republican in office rather than a Democrat. And, I mean, he got elected originally because a very bad candidate was picked on the Republican side. You had a very, bad person, quote unquote, that did very mean things and very sad things, which, hurt his campaign and essentially made him lose the election. So, and last, the state of South Carolina, Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison. So this race is interesting because there is certainly support for Democrats in South Carolina. Now, is it going to be enough to flip the seat? Absolutely not. Yep, again, Lindsey Graham is another of those establishment, pretty much leadership Republicans in the United States Senate. And still, I don't think Lindsey Graham would lose this race because, Jamie Harrison is doing pretty good for a Democrat in the South, generally speaking. But, Lindsey Graham is Lindsey Graham. He's going on to win his race, and he's going to get reelected. And I think one big trend we're seeing is that the Democratic Party is going into the South. They want to get the Southern vote at one point or the other. So they're trying to gain more areas of control. So now that we have all our likely states filled in, let's go on to our lean states. So for the lean states, I would actually say that the Democratic Party has a very good advantage here. So I would say the state of North Carolina, the state of Maine, I would say at this point as well, is pretty solid for the Democratic Party. If Joe Biden wins the presidency, this map would already give the Democrats a majority because whoever the VP is would give them the majority. So in the state of North Carolina, you have Cal Cunningham going against Tom Tillis. Cal Cunningham has raised a very big amount of money for a Senate race, and he's just a very good candidate. He's running a very good campaign. Going against Tom Tillis, I mean, he's not super popular, but I mean, not popular. He's kind of a meh person. Like, a lot of people have a meh feeling about him. Now, with Cal Cunningham, a thing that we must see is that, honestly, if he does good, I mean, he's going to ride a Democratic wave in the state. And I think a Democratic wave might be incoming in the state of North Carolina. Cal Cunningham does have the support, and it's pretty possible that he will go on and defeat Tom Tillis. In the state of Maine, you have Suzanne Collins, unpopular senator, because she's been more reliably going for the president in a state where they really like independence. And Sarah Gideon is a Democrat who is pretty opposed to the president, and that's really going to help her. And since she's running such a good campaign and painting Suzanne Collins as such an unpopular person, Sarah Gideon just really has this race served on a silver platter for her. She just has to go and take it. So at this point in time, I think these states were more in the question mark states maybe a couple months ago. But as we get progressing and the Senate, it looks like it's more and more likely to go to the Democratic Party, I think we can see that these seats are kind of going further into the Democratic column. Let's go to our lean states for the Republican Party at this time. So I think out of the state of Texas, this race could be a lot closer. I would put it in the lean margin as of right now. Maybe I would say higher lean, so 4 to 5 points. I think John Cornyn, I mean, he's a little bit more unpopular than Ted Cruz, but also MJ Hegar is not as popular as Beto O'Rourke if you're comparing to that race. I think this race, honestly, could easily go for the Republican Party. They shouldn't be worrying too much. What they should be worried about is more if MJ Hegar starts going ahead. I think at this point in time, John Cornyn is doing pretty good. Let's go to our last couple of states. So, in Georgia, generally, I would say that all the Senate races are pretty much at this point likely or lean states. I mean, in the regular Senate race, we have Jon Ossoff going against David Perdue. At this point, I mean, David Perdue is, not the most popular person. A lot of people don't have an opinion on him. And Jon Ossoff is such an inspiring candidate. Now, here's the thing. Georgia is Georgia, and it's Republican at its core. It's going to flip if you have a very inspiring, and I think especially African-American candidate in the state of Georgia. Jon Ossoff, I don't think he's going to be able to pull off a lot of the African-American turnout. Now, there is a presidential election, so that might help. But still, I think it would go in the lean margin. And the special election, it's a little weird because it's a jungle primary. So if you guys don't know what a jungle primary is, that's a race where everyone can run and they run all on the same ballot. So essentially, on election day, they're going to be voting for the top 2 candidates, essentially. Or if someone gets 50% of the vote, they go on and win the Senate seat. And then it's probably going to go to a runoff. So right now, the favored candidates to go to a runoff are Doug Collins, current United States Representative from the state of Georgia, and Raphael Warnock. So, at this point, that seat is pretty solidified for not for Raphael Warnock, but rather Doug Collins, because, he is a politician. Raphael Warnock is starting to dip his toes into the political world, but I think, honestly, Doug Collins will have a very good grasp on this seat. So let's go on to our last states, Montana, Kansas, and the state of Iowa. So I would say at this point, Montana and Kansas are both Democratic, yeah, correct. So Chris Kobach in the state of Kansas is so unpopular. And you have Barbara Bollier, who is a very inspiring, very popular candidate. She appeals to the Republicans in the state of Kansas, which easily could help. Considering that Chris Kobach is so unpopular, and considering how moderate Barbara Bollier is, she could easily win that Senate seat. I mean, Chris Kobach lost to Laura Kelly, who is a lot more left-leaning than um, Barbara Bollier in the state of Kansas. So I mean, if Laura Kelly could beat Chris Kobach, I think Barbara Bollier is more than capable, and I think she'll be able to do it. And out of the state of Montana, you have Steve Bullock going against Steve Daines. At this point in time, Steve Daines he's losing in fundraising, and he's slightly losing in the polls. And I think there's a very big sentiment for Steve Bullock in the state of Montana. So right now there's a big movement. So a lot of people that I've heard in the state of Montana, a lot of people are easily voting Bullock instead of Trump and Daines. Steve Bullock is just so popular with both Democrats and Republicans, which easily helps him win this Senate seat. I think it's going to be a narrow race because, I mean, it's pretty much a pretty unknown Republican senator in a Republican state going against a very popular Democratic governor or former governor out there, or he's still governor. So current governor in a Republican state. So he's a Democrat in a Republican state. So that's going to be interesting to watch, but I think he's going to narrowly pull it out. And the last state I have here is the state of Iowa. At this point in time, I would say that Iowa is leaning towards Joni Ernst's victory. Teresa Greenfield is a very popular candidate. She's a very good candidate, and she's a very well out, very good candidate. Now, Joni Ernst still has her rural, and her conservative base, and there's a lot more conservative base in the state of Iowa. Listen, when do Democrats win any statewide races in Iowa? When there is a Democratic wave year, and even in 2018, which could be considered a Democratic wave year, they did not win one statewide race in the state of Iowa. And I mean, at this point in time, you have Joni Ernst, who, I mean, is not as popular, but she still has her big base. Republicans can count on a base. They could always count that a big percentage of their base will go out to vote. Democrats, not so much. It's pretty hit or miss. I think at this point, the Republicans should be pretty confident about the state of Iowa. Nonetheless, they should look out because, I mean, Teresa Greenfield, this race is pretty much at grabbing point. She could easily run by and go ahead and win this Senate seat. So this is my final prediction for the 2020 Senate elections. We have 48 Republicans to 52 Democrats. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.